Hello, this may be a very short episode. I'm feeling really wiped out, but I wanted to share news with you. I might have to pay attention to my script quite a bit, but I don't know what it is. Hay fever. Maybe I'm just exhausted. I feel really run down. So thank you for putting up with me. Let's get through this news so you have the news you need, especially this first one. Just quickly, the Beaverton Startup Challenge, the 2026 version of the Beaverton Startup Challenge. Applications are due on Friday. So if you are watching this on Friday, you should get your application turned into the Oregon Startup Center. I will go ahead and link that up. No telling, it might stay open over the weekend. You know, I used to run an accelerator program, and we used to kind of make it a habit to just leave the application open a little longer than we said it was going to be open, just to see who would come in and apply. And then there was the 1 year that the database where we were capturing all the responses totally crashed, because we were working with the startup form company and their database crashed and lost all of our data. And so we had to have people reapply, and, you know, never mind. That doesn't really matter. Just if you're interested in participating in the Beaverton Startup Challenge, you get a little money, you get some mentorship, you get some peer mentorship, collaboration, collegial kind of collaboratory activity. Could be for you. Please consider applying. They take few companies every year, and I know a number of companies who've been through the program. So if that sounds interesting to you, please get your application in, or at least try to. I don't even know if the form is open. Our friends at Allraise, Paige Hendricks Buckner, who has been a huge help to our community over the years. She's been a founder. She's helped with programs. She's done all kinds of things. Now she's the CEO of Allraise, which helps LPs and VCs understand the power and importance of diversity in the investment community and the startups that are being invested in. They have a survey for you if you have a perspective on VCs that you would like to share with Allraise. And I mean, really, who don't have a perspective on VCs? Please fill out that survey. I can't remember the due date. You've got a little bit of time, but maybe just do that this weekend. Maybe just knock that one out. Get that task checked off that task list. And then our friend Dominic Kuklawood sat down with the Awkward Handshake podcast. If the name Dominic Kuklawood sounds familiar to you, it's because he's the guy behind the Portland Startups events calendar on Luma, the aggregated calendar. We have Calligator, which is the aggregated tech calendar. Portland Startup Events is an aggregated calendar for all kinds of startup-y things. So not just technology, not just developers, not just engineers, but also like marketing people and sales people and other presentations. That is the calendar for all of those things. There's some tech stuff on there too, but it's a broader swath of the startup community and the events that are happening here. So, it's when people ask me what's going on and what events should they attend, I always say, well, go to Calligator and go to Portland Startup Events calendar. So, really interesting conversation with Dominic. Really like the Awkward Handshake podcast. So if you have a chance, maybe stop listening to me being really low energy and run down and then pop over there, because they're much more exciting people than I am. I swear, I realize the bar is very low for being more exciting than me, even when I'm full of energy. So if that's of interest to you and you want to hear more from Dominic, please see that. Okay, so big stories this week. Again, I hate to keep fixating on this, but a lot of the news this week was around SB 1507 that the legislature passed and is on Governor Tina Kotek's desk waiting to be signed. This is the one that taxes qualified small business stock. It's the one that when they detach tax law from the federal law, at the federal level, you owe no income tax on qualified small business stock. Now Oregon is charging basically 10%. It's 9.9%, but it might as well be 10% on liquidity events around qualified small business stocks. So it's concerning. It's concerning because if you haven't been paying attention to the story, it's concerning because many founders go without salary or with a very little salary for years and years and years with the hopes of building something that can generate a successful exit at some point. And when that successful exit occurs, qualified small business stock is one of the things, QSBS is one of the things that they can use to kind of like generate some wealth or refill that bank account that they've drained because they've been starting the startup. Even equally important is, VCs often take advantage of that as well. So local investors, especially early stage investors like angels, pre-seed investors. So, like the local investors here. So basically, you can go back and watch the other videos, but the quick hit is this QSBS taxation can feasibly change the dynamic of our community for the worse and could really negatively impact the number of startups that are being built here, the number of investors that are engaging here, could result in an exodus of founders leaving the state and going somewhere else. I've already had several conversations with some really compelling founders who are considering leaving Oregon because of this. And so I provided a response to the governor's Prosperity Council. I bugged you last week to get your response in. I hope you took the opportunity to do that, regardless of your position. Maybe you love this QSBS taxation. That's fine. And like everybody's got different opinions on it. I just want the state and the Prosperity Council to have a more well-rounded picture of what the impacts are, what Oregon is doing well, what Oregon could do better. And I was really myopic and focused on the QSBS stuff because it was top of mind for me and most concerning for me from a startup perspective. But I'm looking forward to the feedback that everybody provided to the Prosperity Council as they try and figure out a way to reverse this downturn we've been experiencing here in Portland to make all Oregonians more prosperous and successful going forward. So hope you took the time to do that. But on the QSBS stuff, part of what is so frustrating about this law is that it kind of caught us all by surprise, and shame on us. We should have been paying better attention to what was going on at the state level. It was a short session. Things move fast. If you're not familiar with the way the Oregon legislature runs, it does a short session, then a long session, then a short session, blah, blah, blah. They alternate, and this was the short session. Happens really quickly. They can't get much done during that short session, but they managed to get this done, and it clearly just did not have the advice or context that would have been helpful to inform this legislation. So unfortunately, we're doing all of that retroactively. I'm sitting here complaining about it. Doesn't matter. The governor does not have line item veto. So, and I doubt she's going to veto this entire bill. So it's pretty much done, but we need to be thinking what we can do in the future to change that retroactively, remove that, go back to alignment with the federal tax law, whatever it is, we need to be thinking through that. And so for context that our legislators should have had, that we should have had, paying attention to the situation, I wanted to thank Chris Schiermeyer, who's a lifelong Oregonian. He put together a really interesting kind of dashboard that allows you to kind of like change parameters and move things around and do different dollar values and do different sliders and all these kind of things. But like, basically, it just shows that while the legislature thought this qualified small business stock change would result in increasing revenue, what this Monte Carlo simulation, and I didn't even know, like, I hear Monte Carlo simulation all the time, but I was like, if I'm going to tell you about it, I should probably know what a Monte Carlo simulation is. And so basically when they say Monte Carlo simulation, it means you take a variety of parameters that help you, better understand a very complex situation. It's not just a few numbers here and there, it's hundreds of numbers or thousands of numbers with particular outcomes or how things might work. So it's taking all of these simulations, kind of combining them into a single number. Anyway, long story short, the way I ran it, I wound up with Oregon losing $1 billion in revenue over the next 10 years. I didn't change much. I didn't even make it like super cynical. I just ran the numbers where it's like there's the potential for $344 million in revenue, but there's also the potential for $996 million in loss because of founders leaving, because of exits declining, because of investors leaving, because the things that would trigger the QSBS tax law disappearing. So you can't tax people if they're not here. You can't tax people if they're not in the state to be taxed. So again, I keep harping on this. I will link this up. I would love for you to go through, model some different outcomes. Maybe you can come up with something that seems realistic, but is far more positive. This just kind of median, $1 billion hole 10 years from now is the one that made the most sense to me. But you can click through the whole thing, like dig deep into it, move the sliders, adjust the things, and get a very different perspective on what this whole QSBS taxation thing might do to our community and, might do to destroy the startup community. So really, I'm full of energy. I'm sharing all of this happy news with you. It's a really good week. It's been a really good couple weeks in the Portland startup community, and this QSBS stuff has a lot to do with it. Maybe that's why I feel so worn out and down, is having to talk to founders about this situation and how potentially corrosive and destructive it will be to our community. So if that's of interest to you, please check out the simulation, and I would love if you want to share what you've done with the simulation. If you want to share what you've done with the simulation with me, I would love to see it. That would be great. I always appreciate when people share, especially because you can change so many things. Like you basically just keep clicking down into different numbers and you can shift all kinds of different things around. I just did the very most basic thing. I just dragged it out to 10 years and I'm like, oh, that looks bad. So that's what I did with it. And of course, all of it's got a little of the AI and stuff going on behind it as well. And I believe, if I'm looking at it correctly, there is a welcome AI agents. So there is even a page that is optimized for AI browser agents. So you can point Claude and Chrome at it, ChatGPT, Gemini in Chrome, Perplexity AI Companion, Microsoft Copilot. They have content that they can read about this whole thing, has JSON on there that they can use if you want to run your own simulations through your AI companion. So that's another nice part of it. And I encourage you to do that. I think Claude and I are going to spend a bit of time digging through this stuff and running our own simulations. Okay. Speaking of AI, our friend Charles Bolishan at Socratic, there was some hubbub a while ago, a few weeks ago, about Grammarly, basically kind of impersonating famous authors without their permission, and that inspired Charles to create this manifesto called Control Your Persona. And the basic premise of it is, if all your content is out there on the web, where, models are being trained or people are able to, copy it kind of into AI to affect your persona and your way of talking or your way of writing, then that's not a good thing. And you may remember Human Intelligence is doing some of this work too. But this is really just quite straightforward manifesto. You can sign it. The base of it being you do not have permission to impersonate me, no matter how much content I put out on the internet. That I don't put content, and I'm speaking the royal we when I say I. Where I guess it's the royal I. I don't know. Not like Sauron, royal I. But like the royal I do not give you permission to to impersonate me just because my content is available to be impersonated. And I control my persona, and if I want to share that persona with you or build something that emulates my persona, that's my responsibility, not yours. So if you're interested in the full manifesto, of course I will link that up. And if you feel so motivated, please sign it. There are a bunch of signatures on it when I looked at it earlier, and that are growing by the hour, if not by the day. So thank you to Charles for putting that together. Okay. I feel like garbage. We're at this section now. If you're like not interested in me, be free to leave, because this is secrets. Every episode, at the end of the episode, I kind of drop out a character and share secrets about what's going on in the community or what I've been going through. This time I'm also going to give you a health report. I've always had awful hay fever, really bad. And this year the pollen count just seems crazy. When I first moved to Portland, because I was raised all over, but like my junior high school, or middle school, whatever you call it, and high school was in the high desert in southern Idaho. Sage and all those kind of things. So I kind of got used to that pollen. And then when I moved to Portland, it was kind of this time of year, and so much pollen, so much different pollen. And I was literally sick for 2 weeks. Like I could not get out of bed. I had hay fever so bad. And I don't know what it is about this year. Maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe I'm getting more maybe I'm getting older. Maybe. I don't know if I'm just more sensitive or it's really bad this year, but my hay fever has been kicking my ass. I feel like shit. So thank you for putting up with me, and thanks for hanging out and listening to that little health report from me. What else is going on in secrets? Caught up with James McDermott, who is a Pylon co-founder of Lytics, which was successfully exited recently, and caught up with him to figure out what he was doing. And, a few other founders, other people in the community, got the chance to hang out at Kinship a bit and chat with Gaia, the founder of Kinship over there. And if you're not familiar with Kinship, it's really cool. You should know about it. Kinship is a co-working space for the fashion industry. So they have machinery over there. They have designers there. They do all kinds of events. It's a gorgeous space, exposed brick and beams and beautiful wood floors and stuff. The space is amazing. But what's even more amazing is the peer-to-peer community for fashion designers. And in a town that does so much around footwear and apparel and those kind of things, it seems really strange that we don't have a hub for fashion activity. And so that's what Gaia has built. recognizing that as a need. So if you are in the fashion industry, if you know someone in the fashion industry, please check out Kinship. I really like what they're doing. And, it feels to me very similar to some of my work when we were starting Pi back in the day. And you don't even have to be from Portland. Like, come visit us. If you're in the fashion industry in New York or LA or somewhere else, just come visit Portland, come hang out at Kinship, grab a desk, hang out, meet some Portland fashion designery types and stuff. Because it's a really cool space. It's a really cool concept. And I'm really looking forward to following it. And Gaia's work is just amazing. So, that's about it. I'm trying to think, I believe I was at US Bank Tower a few times. I was downtown a bunch. I met up with some Pi alums, and we were looking at some interesting space and stuff. And so there's activity there. There's some other Pi activity that's kind of interesting. I always love it when people just take the model and kind of do their own thing with it. And that's happening with some Pi alums. So I'm eager to support that. Oh my God, I am so tired. All right. This can't be fun for you to watch. It's definitely not fun for me to be all stuffed up and talking to you like this. So I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you being here as always. And thank you for staying through the secrets. I hope this hay fever is not kicking your ass the way it's kicking my ass, or the pollen count isn't bugging you the way it's bugging me. But whatever the case, hang in there until we get the chance to chat again. Please keep up the good work.